The deep web and the dark web. What are they? Are they dangerous? What is a darknet? In this video, we'll explain the difference from the perspective of a cybersecurity specialist, so no sensationalism. Sorry about that. Have you heard of Russell Albrecht, the founder of the Silk Road, the darknet marketplace for trading illegal goods? Do you know what eventually happened to him? FBI, open up! Well, he's been pardoned and released, but it's no good reason to skip the intro now, is it? The internet, you know, the one indexed by Google and found through searches, is called the clearnet, or the surface web. Yeah, it is unforgivable. Usually websites have a file that instructs search engines like Google and others about which pages it should index so that their results are shown to the public, and which ones not to. All those that are not indexed, that require a specific address or authentication, like your smart fridge connected to the internet but not accessible from outside, or your phone with its photos, or your emails on Gmail, are part of everything else, that is, the deep web. The deep web is simply the rest of them, the part of the web not immediately accessible for public use, like private houses, so to speak. If the internet is a series of shops with windows you can freely watch through, the deep web is the private offices reserved for the staff, private places inaccessible without the right authorization. The right. These are websites that have told the search engines, look, I don't want to be found. This is the portal where the Walmart warehouse workers log in, and I don't want random people getting in all the time. Drop the audio skid. I saw you. If you know how computer networks work, the difference between the surface web and the deep web is basically about the level of authorization needed to access a resource and the way a website is indexed. The dark web is not accessible and is not indexed, so it's part of the deep web. The dark web also requires specific software in order to visit its websites. To sum up, you can picture the clearnet, the surface internet, as an overflowing dumpster, so full you can close the lid. Those big dumpsters before recycling was introduced. You feel me? You'd walk by and, judging by the smell, it was obvious. Here you have Google, Twitter X, Facebook, especially Facebook, and the rest of the indexed internet. But below the visible garbage is an ocean of trash, that is, data. The deep web and the dark web. But it's still the same stuff. Even if you can't see it, it's there. And it smells the same. It's not much different. That's human nature. These are just tools. As we'll see in a moment, darknet networks are basically just peer-to-peer VPNs. Now that we cleared up the difference between the surface web and the deep web, which I wanted to explain because people still get confused, like with the difference between Java and JavaScript for over 20 years now, let's move on to the dark web, or rather the darknet, or better, the darknets. In the 1970s, the concept of a darknet was created as a network separated from ARPANET, which was basically the grandparent of computer communication, the first network to implement the TCP/IP stack. The first computer network. It was only for military use and later evolved into the internet as we know it. Darknet referred to all those other networks separated from ARPANET, from its normal communication channels, with an added layer of security. Once they became public, darknets turned out to be useful for citizens to protect their rights and shield themselves from mass surveillance. Paranoid much? But after the Snowden case, the world understood that sometimes conspiracy theories turned out to be true. Probably the most noble use of Darknets is to enable a secure communication channel, as well as a whistleblowing channel, in high-risk countries where freedom of speech is virtually non-existent. In fact, when Darknets wake up in a good mood, they're used to communicate cybercriminal activity. Is cybercriminal even a word? They're used to protect dissidents from political repercussions. They're used to evade restrictive network rules or censorship. They're used for whistleblowing and anonymous news tips for journalists in high-risk countries. Think WikiLeaks and the Assange case. They're also used to hide from an employer that you're also working as a consultant or a contractor somewhere else. But inevitably, knowing human nature and how people act when they feel they're anonymous, Darknets are also used to share illegal files, to buy and sell illegal goods and services, to buy and sell more or less legal, more or less fictitious goods and services that often turn out to be scams, to buy and sell more or less legal goods and services that actually end up compromising your operating system, and as a bonus, you lose your personal data, which further facilitates attacks not just on your devices and your local network, but also puts you personally at risk. Ain't that nice? Things like identity theft, for example. Although you don't necessarily have to access a darknet for that, phishing and identity theft attempts are practically everywhere on the internet. How do you protect yourself? You could install a virtual machine, as I've shown before. Linux is even better. Don't send a copy of your ID to strangers, but that's just the start. I should make a series about this, as people have often asked. To access the various darknet networks, you need dedicated software. Accessing darknet sites is not illegal. Doing things that will be illegal in real life are illegal. That should be obvious. Tor is the most popular darknet, but there are others like I2P, Freenet, and others, not many others. These networks are widely distributed, but even Telegram could be considered a darknet because it's encrypted. The Tor network was created in the mid-1990s by the US Navy to help informants abroad, so that they could have communicated securely over the internet. The websites on the Tor network are not accessible. Absolutely everything is encrypted. Not only the data in transit is encrypted, as it happens for HTTPS, for example, or for other single services like encrypted emails protected by GPG or messages on WhatsApp and Telegram. On a darknet, any communication between server and client is absolutely encrypted. In Tor's case, it uses a particular network infrastructure that is, of course, closed to outsiders, separated from the normally accessible and searchable internet. Before you can even make a request on the Tor network, that is, loading a website, you need to install a special browser, a modified version of the Firefox browser. There might be others, I guess. When you visit a website, before your request reaches its destination, the signal, let's call it that, since I don't want to get into the HTTP protocol, there's another video dedicated to that that's coming later. The signal is relayed through a series of clients, meaning computers connected to the network, and is then re-encrypted each time to make it impossible to trace the origin of the request. This progressive layering of encryption stages is called onion routing because of its structure, just like an onion. This makes browsing very slow. The request bounces between many nodes. Each client is a node on the Tor network. Yet there are still specific attacks aimed at uncovering the original caller, as mentioned in the first episode of the first season of Mr. Robot, which we've covered and analyzed in the previous video. Did you watch it? Go watch it. Two more aspects of Tor. Sites are born and disappear within a few days or go offline for some time. It's a bit like the Wild West. Unstable. Second aspect, DNS resolution, meaning the names of the websites, they're also anonymized. In fact, the websites are strings that are impossible to remember, like this one. But if these sites have this improbable series of characters and are not indexed, how could you possibly find them? Onion. God, this is so hard. Site list. It ain't that hard. What kind of sites can we find on the dark web? Or rather, on Tor's Darknet? We're getting there. But first, is the dark web dangerous? If you're a noob that is truly inexperienced with online security matters. It's like the regular internet in the 2000s, the Wild West. But at the same time, just looking at a dark web page won't get all your data stolen just by glancing at the screen wrong. However, if you start clicking around randomly, don't use a virtual machine, and don't know how cyber attacks work, you'll get hacked and will not even realize it. Even being on Facebook is dangerous, even more so, I'd say. I knew a professional who lost €1,000 without realizing what had happened. And not on the dark web. Well, I don't know where they clicked. There was probably something hot in his area, I think, on a certain website. But malware like the Redline Stealer that steals all cookie data from your browser, your credit card number and social account sessions is also served by ad campaigns that look legitimate on Facebook itself. And there is, also on Facebook, zero damage control. Maybe their experts can keep up, or maybe they just don't care. Then there are the scandals about users' personal data, the Cambridge Analytica incident, but also Facebook vulnerabilities. For those in the know, an IDOR was found, an insecure direct object reference flaw, through which the personal data of over 500 million users have been compromised. I think in 2019. If you signed up for Facebook before then, all your data is already online, at least your email, name and phone number. I will not post the link to avoid enabling further damage by noobs. You just need to know what to Google. Nothing sci-fi, really. Fortunately, the Facebook leak didn't include account passwords, like it happened for MySpace back in the day, and many other services. Actually, many websites have been compromised in the past few years, so change your password on important services often and absolutely enable two-factor authentication. The Have I Been Pwned website allows you to insert your email to check if any account with that associated email address has been previously compromised on various services. On almost them all. This is just to stress that the problem isn't the technology itself, but the humans that use it. It's always them, damn humans. It's always the humans that create it, that introduce errors and do not periodically check if these errors are actually there or not. That's what penetration testing is for. The problem is the humans who make faulty tech and those who use it anonymously, exploiting vulnerabilities to do illegal things while being anonymous. You already know about the worst part of human nature. Just take a look at YouTube comments. The dark web gets sensationalized, the big boogeyman. It's more likely that you'll get hacked via SMS or have your identity stolen when you try to sell a pair of shoes on the internet. What kind of websites can you find on the Tor network? The first site you come across in your first searches will probably be the Hidden Wiki, which has updated links for various Onion sites, as well as Tor network search engines like Hamia and Torch, Torch, however you want to call it. There are also anonymous services like email services, like Proton Mail, there are forums. There's the Darknet version of Twitter or Facebook, developed by the respective official companies themselves for those individuals in countries where they would otherwise not have access to these websites. Because if you try to visit the regular clearnet version of these websites from the Tor network, there are so many checks and controls to prevent access that, together with the slowness of the Tor network, they become impossible to use. There are, of course, also many onion marketplaces where illegal items are bought and sold. Such transactions are, of course, illegal, and I will not show them here for obvious reasons, because I only get flagged when I do this. When other people do that, nothing ever happens to them. I don't know, maybe it's the sunglasses. They are jealous of my sunglasses. My Oliver Peoples sunglasses. It's a special limited edition. There are also tons of scams, and all purchases are made via cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Monero. They're as anonymous as I studied in the book Black Hatonomics. You just have to follow the trail of transactions. Maybe we'll look more into it in another video. I have this flaw of getting too verbose. Call me -VVVV. But what is the safest way to access the Tor network? Well, through virtual machines like Unix and Tails. Yes, you can also use the Tor browser on Windows, downloaded from the Tor site itself, but if you're not an ethical hacker and don't know most of the attack vectors, it's better not to. If you don't know what an attack vector is, don't download anything at all. Don't touch anything, not even with a 10-foot pole. It's like putting a gun in a child's hand. No. No. And so we've come to the conclusion to this more or less brief introduction to Darknets. We could go deeper in the future. Let me know in the comments if you want me to talk about other things like the history of the Silk Road and Ulbricht, who by the way was released last January, about the other Darknets, or if we want to take a closer look at the technical aspects of Tor's architecture, which honestly is the thing that I find, it's the only thing that I find interesting. Hey, I'm a geek. My courses on cybersecurity are available in the description. Learn how to recognize and use all of the attack vectors in web and infrastructure penetration testing. You will also learn to be hyper efficient with Vim and Bash scripting in a series of courses designed for professional training as a cybersecurity specialist, from noob to lead hacker, if you will. Like the video if you enjoyed it, or even hated it, well, like it either way. And subscribe, it's free. Like dreams are. Dream, dream, dream. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.